Welcome to City Church's On Demand Messages. My name is Josh, and we're so glad you're tuning in whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. In fact, if it's your first time, we'd love to connect with you. You can text new to the number on the screen right now. We've got a free gift for you. Also, if you need prayer, we would love to pray with you. We believe that prayer is not our last resort, but it is our first response to what is going on in our lives and the lives of those around us. And so we'd love to join in with you. And so you can text next to the number on the screen. Also, if you'd like to invest financially into the mission of City Church to be a Jesus movement that awakens the soul in the city, you can text next as well to the number on the screen. We believe every Sunday morning when we gather in person and online, and we open up God's Word, that He has something special and specific for every one of us. And so as we lean into this week's message that you're about to watch, we pray that God opens up your heart to whatever He has for you, and we hope that you are encouraged by today's message. Again, if we can do anything for you, please let us know. Awesome. Hey, well, thank you for being here. Thanks for coming this morning. Hopefully you enjoyed your extra hour of sleep. It hit me last night. I knew it was coming and all that, and then I just kind of forgot it momentarily that the clocks changed and all that, and so I put my son to bed an hour earlier, so he actually went to bed at like 6:30 last night, and so he slept for a long time, so he must have needed it. But we're thankful you're here, so grateful you're here. This morning is Basketball Sunday, and I just want to go ahead and set the stage for what today is about. We have this thing that we get to lead called Spalding United Youth Basketball, and we're going to tell the story of why it matters, but my heart is this, is that you know at the end of this, not only why we believe Spalding United Youth Basketball matters so much to us over the next 4 months, but also that you would know and you would understand how you could actually get involved in that. Now, I know like some of you are going to have to retrain and reframe your minds right now because you're in football mode and there's a big win that happened last night, and so any dog fans in the room right now? No dog fans. Okay, all right. So yeah, all right, a couple of you. So for momentarily press pause on that. If there's Tennessee fans in the room, we love you and we're glad you're here as well. But press pause on football and let's lean into basketball because I really want to know for just a few moments, just kind of set the stage for why we believe that this basketball league matters more than anything over the next 4 months, and really why we believe it is the verse that I read a few moments ago. It's John 1, verse 14, and it says that the Word became flesh and made His dwelling among us. We have seen His glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. I love what another version, the Message version, actually says. It says that the Word, so Jesus is the Word, became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. I love this idea that God said, you know what? I want them to know who I am. Like, I want to have a relationship with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send my son Jesus, and I'm going to move into the neighborhood. Like, I'm going to be a real person. I'm going to be a real person who goes through the things that they go through, who sees them eye to eye and face to face. Like, I'm going to be this person. And John, because the person who wrote this was just a regular dude like you and me, John actually believed that this Jesus was the Son of God. What we see in John chapter 17, that Jesus says, as he's praying to God, he says, I have made you known to them. I have made you known to them. And will continue to make you known in order that the love you have for me may be in them and that I myself may be in them. This is Jesus' way of saying, like, I came to earth to explain to you, or to explain you to mankind, to make you God personal. You see, Jesus came to take the guesswork out of who God was. He came to take the guesswork out of it. So for people who are like, is this God? Like, does He love me? Does He hate me? I don't know. He seems really distant. And maybe you feel that way. Maybe you feel that way about God, that He just seems like this distant being. Like when I try to talk to Him, I just pray. I think that my words just hit the ceiling, that He's not listening. And so what Jesus did was He came to take the guesswork out of God. Jesus didn't claim to have the best explanation of God. He came to be the best explanation of God. And so we see this, like the disciples at one point are hanging out with Jesus, like, hey, Jesus, would you tell us about who God is? Would you tell us about Him? And Jesus says in John 14, He says, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. You see, Jesus demonstrated and illustrated who God was. Last week, if you weren't here, like we just really believe, and we talked about this all last week, that people matter to God. You see, that concept wasn't something that was come up by man. Jesus introduced this concept. Jesus came along, and at that point, the Greek and the Roman gods didn't care about people. In fact, there were more slaves than there were Roman citizens at the time. And at any point, your town or your city could be taken over, and you could become a slave. And to top that off, the religious leaders at the time did everything they could to use their laws to keep people in their place, reminding everyone that God favored the powerful, the wealthy, and primarily the men. Poverty and illness were a sign of God's punishment. In a culture like that, compassion wasn't needed because you got what you deserved, no matter whether it was good or bad. And then Jesus comes on the scene. And everywhere he went, he elevated everyone's value. He said people have value just because they were human. Jesus elevated the status of women. He elevated the status of every race. He elevated the value of the poor and the sick. He would do things like redefine what a neighbor was, because at that point they thought a neighbor was someone who lived beside a person, and neighbor was actually anyone who was in need at any point. He told stories about that God doesn't view sinners, God doesn't view people far from him as someone to punish but to pursue. Not to pay them back, but to win them back. He would say things like, love your enemy. He would say, do good to those people, even when they don't do good to you. Jesus flipped everything on its head from what he said, but what he did was even greater. He hung out with the unclean people, the sick people. He hung out with the tax collectors. He hung out with the sinners. I mean, Jesus would have meals with these people. I can imagine the disciples would say, like, Jesus, if we keep doing this, it's going to kill our reputation. The religious people are never going to want to hang out with us if we keep hanging out with these people. And Jesus said, exactly, because this is my mission, to explain to people who God is. You see, Jesus brought value to people's lives simply through his presence. Simply by him showing up in spaces that nobody else would, Jesus spoke value into their lives. He spoke value into every race. He spoke value into every age. He spoke value into every story and every struggle. He went out of his way to declare the value of the very people that society had said had no value. And when he left, his followers, the people that were with him, they got it. And in fact, they got it so good that they had to actually sit down with his disciples and say, you've got to quit caring for people because we need someone to preach the gospel. Like, they weren't known for what they did within the gatherings and in the walls of the gatherings. They were known for what they did in the streets and in the community. I mean, this is what this early church understood. They got it. They absolutely understood that we carry the same mantle as Jesus to explain to people who God is. To explain to people to explain to people, no matter who they are, that they matter to God. And so what we do is we aren't characterized by what we do in here. We are characterized by what we do out there. And if you know nothing else about our church, I hope you know that we care deeply about this. Deeply about this, that it matters what we do Monday through Saturday. We say all the time that we want to be good on a Sunday, but we want to be great on a Monday as a church. Like, we want to be great in the workplace. We want to be great in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and how we serve. This is the heart of our church because this was the heart of Jesus, to move into the neighborhood. Therefore, we have to ask the question, just like the disciples did, what would it look like if we got it? What would it look like if we actually got what Jesus was teaching? That's why we wholeheartedly believe that the best way that we can use our time and our talents and our finances over the next 4 months is to invest in Spalding United Youth Basketball. Because Jesus moved into the neighborhood, so we should too. And we do that in so many ways. And there's so many ways that you can get involved. There's so many ways that you can do this personally. But for us as a church, we are deeply, deeply convicted that the best way to use the next 4 months of our lives is to solely invest in Spalding United Youth Basketball. And you may ask, well, what is Spalding United Youth Basketball? I'm glad you asked. So I'm going to invite one of my best friends and also our city engagement pastor, Warren, on stage just to kind of talk through this a little bit. Let's give it up for Warren real fast. Hey, man.
Hey, buddy.
So
when we kind of rehearsed this, I did a cartwheel and
you touched your toe.
I did. See, everybody got an extra hour sleep, but last night my mind was like, "Hey, you get an extra hour sleep." It took me till 2:30 in the morning to fall asleep last night. I know.
Anybody
right?
else? That was your story.
Man, I was like,
You're
"Come
nope.
on."
Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. A couple of us. All right. You good? All right.
Yep.
Hey, man. So Warren and I, you can sit down. Let's sit down together. My mic's kind of hold on. We're super professional around here,
Yes.
as you can tell.
Yeah.
So Warren and I actually have a lot of history when it comes to basketball. I think we actually have some photos
wow.
of
Do
this.
we really?
When it comes to, yeah. So I think this is like 1990.
That's when I had hair.
If you're wondering, I'm the kid with the big head looking like a blow pop over there, and that's sweet Warren, man. Like, you are so focused, and I'm like, what's happening? I believe I'm also wearing khaki shorts. So
Yes,
there
you
it is. And then, I mean, it's fast forward a couple years after that.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
this is,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Man.
there it is. There we are.
Look at those. Y'all can't see them, but those crew white socks.
Up
Those
to
are
the knees,
awesome.
man. Yes.
Yes. Apparently,
I'm
somebody
just-
played in jeans over here. Like,
Yeah. I'm saying, leave me alone. I don't want to take this picture. Yeah. Anyway, so that's our little moment. Welcome to our world. So we have a lot of history with basketball, and so which kind of leads into why even this. But so Spalding United Youth Basketball, it actually, it took its actual form around like May of 2021, but it didn't really start there. The story didn't start there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how the story started?
yeah. So, when you hear Josh a moment ago talking about the importance that we believe that we're more than just Sunday, that Monday through Saturday should be even better, right?
Yep.
And my job here is city engagement pastor. So a lot of people were like, "What does that mean? Like, what do you do all day, sir?" But really, part of my job is really just to as a church engage in our community. And I think one of the things that there's a wrestle a little bit with church is a lot of times as church, so we're talking holistically, we expect people to show up here, but we're not willing to show up where they are.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
so as we just began to launch, so those of you that are maybe new with us, we're only about 3.5 years old as a church, and we've had the awesome opportunity to be a part of so many things in our community, but I just felt like God was saying, hey, there's something deeper. Like, there's a place where we can show up more and be more consistent. And so we just began to pray, like, God, would you open the door for us to build deeper trust in our community? And so that was our prayer. Like, that was a prayer that we were praying. There was other people praying that prayer. God, give us an open door just to show up where there is a need and we can build deeper trust.
And to show up consistently too.
And show up
like we didn't want to do one thing and be one and
Right.
done. Like, so we had been praying this. Like, we didn't know what that looked like. I mean, we threw some things out there, but we didn't know what it looked like. And then one night, it was a Monday night in the middle of January of 2021, I got a phone call from a friend, and he was like, "Hey, I just came from the county rec meeting, and the rec basketball board had to step down for just." It was right out of COVID, and so many things were going on, so they just need to step down. And your name got brought up as someone who would, City Church got brought up as someone who could potentially really take this over and lead this thing. And now, this is why this matters, is because we believe that that when a community's in trouble, the church should be the first phone call. And we've always prayed that. And this was the first time where we actually were the first phone call, and like just to show God's faithfulness in that. And so immediately, like I those who know me know that I don't really think details, and so I immediately wanted to be like, yes, and I was like, let me show some maturity here and press pause and be like, let me talk about this, let's pray about this. And so I called Warren, and I was like, hey, this is coming, just so you know, we need to start praying through it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the initial word from the county is like, hey, you can probably expect like 150 kids. And so like initially you're thinking through all the pieces and parts that come with that. And we're starting from ground zero. We were, as the other association had been doing this for years. As a matter of fact, we have some coaches who coach with Spalding United who actually played in Spalding County Park and Rec, maybe even some of you here. And so they had just such a rich history and been doing it for so long.
And we're so thankful
and
for
we're
that.
so thankful for them. And so we were stepping in really just from scratch, and they were like, hey, you might have 150 kids is probably what we're thinking. And so, you start thinking through the logistics of finding coaches and the hours that it would take and the financial piece as well to launch it and build it back to where we really hoped it to be to meet the need of the community. It was like
we had to build. We built a league.
Right.
I mean, basically, yeah.
At first it was like, yes, and then it was like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Like, there's a lot involved in this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and from there, the thing that happened is what we just said is, hey, our heart has always been if there's a need, like the church should show up. Mm-hmm. And so I think the easy yes was there. It was just like, yeah, this is what we've been praying for, this is what
Yes.
we've been asking for. And if you don't know anything about Spalding County, like basketball it's not just like, oh, that's a cool game. It's a love.
Yeah,
there's
man.
like a deep love for basketball in our community, and there's a deep richness in our community that basketball just brings like this family thing. Like if you come on a Saturday, you'll be like, wow. Like
I love it. Yep.
like grandparents come, aunt and uncles come, nieces and nephews.
It's a communal
neighbors.
experience, yeah.
And it's so beautiful. Like
Yeah.
it's such a cool thing to be a part of. And I absolutely love that we get to show up in that space consistently and just build a trust to say, hey, you know what? Like we just want to show up for you guys. Like there's no agenda here, but just to show up and be present in our community. That's like our heart is like, hey, God, you've given us this opportunity. Let's show up.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we kind of sought a lot of counsel, but just spent some time building the league, brought it before the county, and they were unanimously yes. And so in I guess September of 2021, we launched Spalding United Youth Basketball.
Right.
How was year one?
Yeah, so year one, if you remember what I said, they were like, hey, you'll have 150 kids. By like 3 weeks, we were at like 250 already registered. And then isn't that
awesome,
crazy?
yeah.
And then by the time it was said and done, we were at 322 kids. And like I remember looking at Josh and be like, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, but you know, the really incredible thing is this, let me just, for those of you that maybe this is like your first experience with church, and you're like, this is weird. Like, what is happening? Like, the incredible thing about our God is that he is faithful.
Yeah, that's good.
He is so faithful. And here's 322 kids. And before we even got to 322 kids, we had every coach that we needed. And the only coach that is coaching at Spalding United Youth Basketball from City Church was him.
Yeah.
And so we just
Which,
began
for the
to...
record,
Yeah.
we got a 7 and 8 year old team this year. I'm pretty excited about it. I
Yeah.
feel like we drafted well. I'm really pumped about it. That's just
It's him asking you to come out and cheer his team on. Like,
Coach Adozie, I've
like
got as my assistant.
the
That's
the home court advantage, right? But immediately God was like, hey, I'm allowing you to step into this space and to begin to build trust. And it's really cool. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but year two to see almost every single one of those coaches come back again, which is really an incredible thing. And so year one, we launch, we go in, we have 322 kids, and you're navigating all the time and space. And it was just incredible to watch consistently as God was faithful. And I think one of my favorite things is I love seeing the kids play. I love seeing the coaches. But one of my favorite things about this past season was just watching parents.
Yep.
You know, you have like two different kind of parents out there. You have the ones that like this is like their dream is for their child to be Michael Jordan. Like, and that, Josh, like, that's fun to watch. Like the intense, like, and then you just have the parents that just sit there and they're just like,
just happy it's happening.
So
happy their kids playing.
to watch their kids play. And that was a beautiful thing for me because you're adding something of value to kids, but you're also adding value, right? If you are a parent, but there's something about watching your kids just play basketball, run up and down the floor and have a blast. Yeah,
so good. So our prayer was, man, that every kid had a team and that every team had a coach in the first season. And so now that prayer is expanded. But we thought before we actually introduced you to some people who were just really invested last year in Spalding United, we would kind of show you what it looked like. So check out this video.
Yeah.
Seeing the kids out there having fun, like, that's everything for me.
The minute that the kids get it, where it's like a snap of the finger and they understand the game.
There was some incredible things watching the coaches, the pride in their children.
I really love winning so we can be the first one on the newspaper.
The effort they do to bring the best out of the players. I really just wanted to be part of that movement.
We're one big family. I love them, man. I support everything they're doing.
All right, yes. Isn't that awesome? All right, I'm going to invite some friends up on stage with me. And just some people here that are a part of this. So David and Evangeline and Candace, if you guys will come on up and join me up here. Yeah. Let's give them a hand as they come. Come on. So as you guys come up, there's a button on that mic. If you just push that button, and it'll turn green. And man, excited to hear from you guys today. And the reason they're up here is they all were involved in some capacity this season. So I'm going to let them answer that question first. So if you guys, I'll start with David and move my way down. If you guys will just say who you are, so your name, what you do, and how you were involved in basketball this past season. So.
Oh, well, where do I start? I was a parent, and still a parent, of course, but parent, coach, assistant coach, and tried to help financially any way my family could.
Yeah. And well, the phone call Josh talked about from a friend was actually from David, who was on
that part.
on the park and rec board, which was pretty incredible. So yeah.
And Josh is 100%. He said, "Yes, wait, David, it's a yes now, but wait."
This is true. Thanks, David. All right, Evangeline.
Hello, my name is Evangeline. I am the administrative assistant for Spalding United, but I am a juvenile probation officer. I've been working with kids for 18 years. So I came in with Spalding through Warren. He came to the ice cream truck to one of our events at the probation office, and he said, we have a position for administrative assistant. And I said, okay, I'm going to apply. So I applied, and here I am.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
Isn't that awesome?
him and Josh.
Yeah.
They are nice.
And what's so cool is Evangeline, again, is just evidence of God's faithfulness. We were praying, God, would you give us someone that just knows our community, that our community knows, and just loves the game of basketball and loves kids, and God sent us Evangeline, so we're so thankful for her. All right, Candace.
All right, I'm Candace. I signed up on the app just because I was bored and was like, I'm going to check this out. And I went once and then went every time after that, because if you want to see joy, come watch these children play basketball. It's amazing.
Yeah, and something cool about Candace, too, is she's also a teacher at Orrs Elementary, our partner school as well. And so she literally, I think, she's right. She served one Saturday in doing the clock and the book, and then she just kept coming. And she was like, when are the 4-year-olds playing? Because that's when I want to be there. And so she was there.
I'm telling y'all, you're going to fight me for the spot.
Yeah.
Every 4-year-old, whether you have it or not, I'm going to be there.
She's got to show up.
Every 4-year-old game, I will be there.
It's a joy to watch 4-year-olds run up and down the court with a basketball that's almost the size of them. So we want to just take a moment and kind of hear what the impact of Spalding United Youth Basketball, just from the different spaces they're in and how they serve and how they have their parenting or their coaching. And so my question first for you, David, is you think through, being a parent, being a coach, what did Spalding United Youth Basketball mean for your kids?
Wow. November was the first time my kids have ever picked up a ball, basketball. No experience whatsoever. Had amazing coaches, mentors for my oldest, because I wasn't coaching the 10 and 11-year-olds. They're just too old for me. Okay, I have one, I'm good. And he went from not even understanding basketball to now made his sixth grade basketball team. He's one of 2 basketball players to make the team. He has matured so much in the game, but if you mature in anything, you mature in your life too. Yeah. So he has become more driven in school, because you can't play ball if your grade's not right. He's matured with the people he hang around. He's like, look, if y'all not going somewhere, I can't be a part of it. So, and in my 7-year-old, it was his first time as well, and he didn't even know how to dribble the ball, if you remember that. Now, this little kid looked like a little Iverson. And he's so excited with the camaraderie, like the other kids. Yeah. And his friend base have grown tremendously. His vocabulary, just having conversation with other kids and stuff. So I can honestly say, through the mentorship that my kids received, that right there was awesome because we as parents try to do the best for our kids. Well, guess what? If you have a village, it's so much easier on the parent.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Thanks for sharing. It was really cool to see Xavier come from like, I've never really done this basketball thing, and now like you called me yesterday like, hey, where's there an open gym? He wants to go play more. It's cool to see that impact that it had. So thank you for that. Evangeline, in your line of work, you've said you've worked with kids for over 18 years, and you kind of get to see both sides of the spectrum. So what do you think Spalding United Youth Basketball means for our youth in our community and how it impacts them in relation to what you do?
I would say it's more of a positive outlet for them because it keeps them off the streets. It keeps them from offending. The crime rate is so high, and it brings it down because they're involved in something that's positive. They meet new friends, like he stated. They love meeting new people. They make friendships, positive friendships, and it do motivate them to want to go to school, do good in school, because without that, they can't play in sports, and they love basketball. It keeps them it empowers them. It gives them more confidence in themselves. It inspires them to just say, okay, I can do good, I can go places, and I'm gonna make something out of myself. And with this, these kids, they love it. And I noticed that it do bring the crime rate down for the young kids because it keeping them off the streets, it keeping them from watching television 24/7, from the game, on Xbox, PlayStation. It keeps them involved in something positive. And that's what I have seen for our community.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for sharing that, Evangeline. And I just want to take a real quick moment before I head to that question. Evangeline, we are so grateful for you and being our admin and just all the work that you put in. She was there every Saturday, weekday games. She is answering phone calls and emails, and really helps me a lot be able to take on what we have. So Candace shared that she was a city builder this past season. So the question I have for you is, what do you tell someone maybe that's sitting here watching online that is like, you know what, I think maybe I want to get involved in this, but I know nothing about basketball, so I don't know if I want to do this.
Y'all know he gave me this question because I knew nothing about basketball. I mean, I had watched the game before. I knew the general concept, but I knew nothing. So the first time I went, I got a quick tutorial on the scorebook, not the board. And it wasn't hard, honestly. It's not crazy. It's something easy to catch on, especially with the lower because it's not a fast pace like the upper. So when I started kind of with that 4-year-old, it was really easy because, they had to get me because I kept not watching anything but other 4-year-olds. Like, they'd be on the wrong side of the court, and I'm looking over here. They're making shots over here. I'm looking at this baby twirling around. And they're like, hey, you got to catch this. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. It's too much to look at. So, but it isn't hard. It was just fun. And then I do want to share a story. There was a girl that went to my school that I did not know. She's not on my hall. She wasn't in my class. I didn't even know her name, but she recognized I was there. So the next day at school, she said, or Monday at school, she said, hey, I saw you. I said, oh my gosh, I didn't see her. I saw you too. You were so good. and so then I looked for her, and I started noticing when I went, she didn't have anybody there. They dropped her off, and then they would leave. So there was no one there for her, but she looked for me every Saturday. And so every Monday I got to comment, like, I saw you scored three goals. Goals, see, I said it right.
Yeah.
And she would say, oh yeah. And so she ended up like trying to invite me to the thing they were going to, but I was helping the region where it was real far away. And she was like, oh, where you go? I was like, oh, I'm already volunteering. But it made a connection to someone that I didn't have a connection with. And that's kind of what I've seen. I've seen kids at the grocery store that remember that I was there. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you were so great. Are you coming back? So you make a difference, even if you think, I don't really know what I'm doing. Those high fives and those, hey, you're doing great. And you'll see, I just cheer for everybody. It's ridiculous. Everyone who makes a goal, I'm just super excited. And so it's not hard. I did learn so much, though. Now I know about possessions. Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah. I know about possessions now and fouls, and I know about all kind of stuff. So I'll be much better this year.
Oh, you did incredible.
I'm going to learn so much.
You did absolutely incredible. That was so good, Candace. I think that's important to remember that, you know, one of the things that we say here at City Church is when you're a city builder and you're serving, you're not just filling out a roster. Like, you're actually helping build up a city. And, you know, it's incredible from this season to last season to be at the ice cream truck, or there's 2 kids that live in my community, and I see them in their Spalding United youth basketball jerseys all the time. Go to Oars and they're wearing their basketball jerseys. You know, it's so incredible to watch how kids are being impacted, not even just during the basketball season, but throughout the year. And I'll see one of them in the grocery store, and they'll walk up and be like, "You're the basketball guy." You know, it's being present and showing up that's making the difference in those spaces. So let's give these guys a big hand and tell them thank you so much for being here. Yeah.